let's dive right into what Iran's military is really all about. You see, it's not built for global domination, not even close. It's designed for something much more specific, to stare down the world's biggest superpowers and make them think twice.
And that brings us to the real puzzle here. I mean, think about it. For decades, Iran's been hit with some of the heaviest international sanctions you can imagine. So how in the world did they manage to build a military that's so influential and, frankly, so feared?
Well, if you just look at the raw numbers, the picture seems pretty straightforward. Iran is ranked the 16th most powerful military in the world. Out of 145 countries, that puts them comfortably in the top 20. Not bad, right?
But here's the twist. The moment you scratch beneath the surface, you find these massive cracks. Take their Air Force, for example. As this quote points out, it's basically a flying museum of old Cold War jets. We're talking ancient American F-4s and F-14s from before the 1979 revolution. There's just no way these can go toe-to-toe with the state-of-the-art F-35 stealth fighters that the U.S. and Israel are flying.
So, what's really going on here? To get to the bottom of Iran's true strength, you have to throw the traditional rulebook out the window. And the secret really begins with its very unusual two-headed military structure.
You heard that right. Iran doesn't just have one army, it has two. On one hand, you have the Artesh. That's their regular, conventional army, the guys who defend the borders. But then you have the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And these guys are a totally different beast. They're an ideological force whose main job is to protect the Islamic regime, and, this is the most important part, they control all the good stuff, the country's entire ballistic missile program and their elite special forces.
So, when you combine those two forces, what do you get? You get one of the biggest standing armies in the entire Middle East. We're talking over 610,000 active duty troops. That sheer number of boots on the ground is a huge part of their strategy.
And it doesn't even stop there. Behind that active force, they've got another 350,000 trained reservists ready to be called up. Now, this isn't just some abstract number. It represents a massive pool of manpower they can use to make any potential invasion an absolute nightmare for an attacker.
Okay, but Iran's leadership knew they had a serious problem. Their tanks are old, their jets are ancient. There's no way they could win a straight-up, head-to-head fight with the high-tech armies of the U.S. or Israel. So they had to get creative. They needed something to level the playing field, a great equalizer.
And they found it, big time. Their answer wasn't to try and build a better Air Force. No, instead they decided to bypass it completely. They poured a ton of money and resources into building the biggest, most varied arsenal of ballistic missiles and drones in the entire Middle East. Now this is where their strategy gets really clever. Take a look at the focus on solid fuel missiles. Why does that matter? Well, unlike liquid fuel ones, you can launch them fast, with almost no warning. That makes them incredibly hard to intercept. And then there's the range. We're talking 2,000 kilometers. To put that in perspective, that gives them the ability to hit pretty much any target in Israel and reach major U.S. bases all across the region.
And it's not just about the big missiles either. Iran has become a world leader in drone warfare. You've probably heard of their Shahed drones. They're cheap, they're surprisingly effective, and they are absolutely battle-proven. We've seen them used by Iran's allies all over the place. And of course, they've been a huge factor in the war in Ukraine, which shows you just how dangerous they are.
So here's the key takeaway on this. These missiles and drones are the answer to their weak Air Force. Why risk your old pilots and outdated jets when you can launch devastating strikes from hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away, all while your crews are safe on the ground? It completely changes the game.
All right, but this brings us right back to that paradox we talked about. Iran can definitely land a punch from a distance. But what happens if an enemy pushes past that and forces a direct, old-fashioned fight? Well, that's where the picture gets a lot less rosy for them. Their ground forces are huge, no doubt, but their equipment is a real mishmash of outdated gear. You've got Soviet-era tanks with some upgrades, old Chinese armored vehicles, and even American equipment from before the Shah was overthrown. This isn't an army built for blitzing across borders. It's designed to dig in, absorb a punch, and turn any invasion into a long, bloody slog. Okay, now let's switch over to the Navy. At first glance, you see a number that makes you do a double take: 25 submarines. That actually puts Iran at number 3 in the entire world for the total number of subs. Pretty impressive, right? Well, that number is also incredibly misleading. Because while they have a lot of submarines, you know what they don't have? Aircraft carriers. They have 0. Destroyers? 0.
These are the giant, powerful ships that form the backbone of a true blue water navy like the U.S. has, the kind that can sail anywhere in the world. Iran has none of that.
And this perfectly showcases their entire philosophy. See, they know they can't compete with the U.S. carrier strike group on the open ocean, so they don't even try. Their goal is to make their backyard, the Persian Gulf and the critical Strait of Hormuz, an absolute no-go zone. The idea is to use their submarines and fleets of small, fast attack boats to swarm any large enemy ship that dares to enter those narrow waters.
So when you take a step back, all of these pieces start to fit together like a puzzle. The two armies, the powerful missiles, the swarm-based navy, it all points to a single coherent military doctrine. It's all built around one powerful concept.
And that concept is asymmetric warfare. It's simple, really. If your opponent is bigger and stronger, don't fight them on their terms. Don't send your 1970s jets up against their 21st century stealth fighters. Instead, you change the rules of the game. You find their weak spots, you exploit them, and you make the price of attacking you so incredibly high that they decide it's just not worth the pain.
And really, this is the most important thing to understand. You can't measure Iran's military power by its ability to conquer other countries. That's not what it's for. Its true strength lies in its ability to inflict absolutely devastating pain on any attacker. And not just by hitting military bases, but by threatening the entire global economy through critical shipping lanes. It is a strategy designed for one thing and one thing only: deterrence. So that leaves us with a final and pretty unsettling question. We have a region that is constantly on the brink, and we have Iran, which is working hard to rebuild its missile arsenal. The question is, can this strategy of deterrence, this threat of massive retaliation, actually keep the peace? Or is it just a matter of time before a miscalculation leads to a conflict that nobody can control?